Welcome to The Code. Construction, design, and engineering. This is India's #1 construction podcast.
First question. And I like to start like strong, usually, but I really want to understand what you think today is the problem in the industry of civil engineering, especially related to the education sector. And what, according to you, is the biggest challenge that these students are facing today? Coming out of college or currently in college or having come out of college and not finding some work, even after like 2 or 3 years of struggle right after their degrees. Please.
Okay, so I would like to probably answer this question in two parts.
Yeah.
So I think firstly, like just understanding at a large scale level the scale of this problem. So what I know of India specifically, we are known worldwide for the volume of engineers India produces. I'll just put a number to it. India, has almost 18 to 19 lakh people who enroll in engineering programs in colleges every year. 15 lakh almost graduate every year. And out of that, only 2 to 2.5 lakh end up getting a job as per, what is a good pay and, sort of a will in the field of which they want to work really.
Yeah.
And out of that also, it's hardly 30 to 40,000 students which actually end up cracking a very well high-paying job at the end of the day. And if you see all this part, the remaining one in between, like all those 15, 16 lakh people who struggle to, figure out with respect to their career, the thing they should be doing, the competency gap in their work, it's a strong sort of signaling that there is something fundamentally broken in our entire engineering education space in a nutshell. And when I say this, I'm not currently focusing on civil engineers as of now. I'm talking about the entire spectrum from civil, mechanical, IT, everything. Now, the other part to this is going deep into where is the problem really. And what I know of is that, in my understanding, education has 3 parts to it. Firstly, how the curriculum in education is organized wherever learning is happening. Like how the topics are being curated, how, what is really required in the industry is brought together as topics in the entire sequence of learning program. Second is the pedagogy of learning. How learning is made fun. How people are probably like introduced to concepts. Then they are made to sort of focus towards things like, how to apply those concepts on certain problem statements and build confidence in their capability that in this particular thing, I can really make things happen, how that flows somewhere and how much openness in that space exists to explore, experiment, and genuinely follow your curiosity. So that's like the pedagogy understanding. And third is how in a learning space, really the outcomes of learning are focused towards that. At the end of the day, are people ready to, crack a job which is very relevant to the industry?
Yeah.
Are people really like, feel confident that they go out in the industry and are able to do things on their own somewhere? So in all this space, if you really see, 90% of engineering colleges in India today are failing to solve this particular gap and problem. And this probably happened, I think, if I go deeper into it, this probably happened 4 or 5 decades back when in India, probably post-independence, a decade into it, 2 decades into it, instead of betting more from the government on, primary education, India made their bet on technical and engineering education. And so many colleges around engineering were opened in remote parts of the country.
Yeah.
Everywhere. Like ITs probably like led that space from the government, but then the private sector came in with building so many colleges. They did build the infrastructure, but they really didn't figure out who are these talented, skilled faculty who are going to come and teach here.
Yeah.
And that in the last 25 odd years, 20 odd years has started to show cracks miserably.
Yeah.
And that's where, this problem is somewhere.
I think the focus was not on the entire spectrum of engineering. I think it was all catered to one industry. Because, of course, there's an IT boom that has been talked about in India for the last 30, 40 years or whatever it is. And somehow you're right about people in different, let's say, subjects. Like if they select a separate field like mechanical and automation, they still get placed in IT. And they have to take that job. especially for kids who don't have any other option. They don't have a family business at home. They don't have any means where they can actually get into a startup sort of a thing, right? Or कई बार होता है यार ideas नहीं आते हैं किसी को, and it seems like the next best possible thing, and they change their field of work compared to what they actually studied for, and then they answer this question for their entirety of their lives to their kids also then, कि पापा आपने क्या पढ़ा था? सही यार, मैकेनिकल इंजीनियरिंग. आपने क्या पढ़ा था? सिविल इंजीनियरिंग. How come are you in IT now? Or how come are you a computer science grad now? Or how are you an AI expert now? It is an evolution, but it is also catering to a service which requires more people with good pay. I do think that the system failed, but do you think when you say a lot of colleges are struggling with this problem, do you think they care to solve it? So, and I'm talking about every college here. I'm not even saying that private colleges care or not. I mean, talking about government institutions. For the sake of running something which is a well-oiled ship, do they care to solve this core or crux of a big sort of a problem that exists today, in your opinion?
I think there is an intent. There are a lot of colleges, and the people running those colleges do have a right intent. But I think depending upon, whether it's a public sector college or a private sector college, I think the way these colleges are structured, they have become a very slow-moving machine. Mm-hmm. And you can't expect them to have shifts overnight. And that's actually like really slowing down the entire space. And probably like since you mentioned about IT boom, I would like to like reiterate that it's really true that the industry pulls the people. Like if an industry booms, it pulls the people.
Correct.
But the interesting part is we can talk about IT boom, but in India, there is actually an infrastructure boom as well.
It is the biggest right now.
Because if you see the scale of it, in global spending on infrastructure, India stands at, I think, 5th position after USA, China, Japan, and Germany, with almost $800 billion in spending on infrastructure and construction every year. So there is a spend and there is money being, put into the industry.
Yeah.
But I think the way the industry is structured, it's gone chaotic way too much somewhere that the people who are actually running the show, they are not able to, sort of have a clarity. How do I build a really good career in this particular industry in a nutshell? And IT seems to be more newer, simpler. And they know that if I learn how to code, I'll probably be able to make a really financially rewarding career. So why not?
And work environments. They want to be placed in those good offices. They want to have that work-life balance, which I don't think ever exists in my personal opinion. But I don't know. Let's come to the infrastructure sector right now. I was invited for a TEDx talk in January earlier this year. It was at Nikmar in Pune. Beautiful campus, very nice, super beautifully built auditorium. To the point that you don't even have to like say anything loudly, or you don't have to like have a very crazy mic piece, and the sound just surrounds very nicely. Just that gets distributed. And I congratulated the students on the infra that they built. And now I was speaking to the dean and I was speaking to all these guys, and like the faculty were there, top notch, very very welcoming. One of the things that the gentleman told me was that आप बिलीव नहीं करेंगे कि सिविल इंजीनियरिंग के पास हमारे पास जॉब्स बच जाती हैं देने के लिए बच्चे कम है. And I'm like, फिर क्या होता है जॉब्स का? कहता नहीं, they just look around somewhere else. Or eventually these construction companies go out and outsource the services to another company outside India. And then like, please do these services for us. Handle the PMC. Please handle the structural engineering. Please handle this. And then these jobs are actually not being done by Indian engineers. Is it a problem existing in terms of the quantum of the jobs available to these kids in civil engineers today? Or is it that kids don't want to do civil engineering anymore? What do you think? Because you have like, how many students now? By like 1.2 lakh students, how many students have you catered to this year itself?
Yeah.
You have this big data point. That's what I'm basically coming from.
So, see, India has, if I specifically talk about civil engineers, since you mentioned, I think there are close to like 3 lakh graduates in civil engineering every year in India.
Okay.
And I think very, very, like almost like 15-20% of that number actually end up pursuing the career in core civil engineering to an extent. And it's actually a problem right now for the country because we are not having skilled people in this space that are ready to build certain things. I'll just give you an idea. Like L&T is the biggest employer in our country for these specific roles around civil engineering, structural engineering, site engineering, architects, etc.
It is the biggest infra company.
Yeah.
in the country
Yeah.
right now.
And they intend to onboard almost 30,000 freshers every year. They really struggle to find talented people wanting to join their organization to build further. So they ended up building an in-house education space that they will hire those set of people and then figure out how to probably skill them for 6 months, 8 months, 10 months, and then probably see how they can take them up in the hierarchy of their ecosystem.
You're saying they have to train the graduates
Yeah.
for 6 months
Yes.
to make them well equipped to actually work on
Yes.
in the deposits?
And they're paying them salaries. They're patiently like spending effort on them, and that's a dark reality of how things have been happening.
Okay.
But like what I feel is that in all this, where if you look at it from a very individual perspective, anyone who's wanting to have a good life, they sort of ask for two things. Everyone, what I know is actually looking for a very financially rewarding career for themselves, how they get themselves on a path that they know financially they will grow here. And second, they are looking for work that is somewhere meaningful and gives meaning to what they work towards. These are the two things everyone is trying to figure out for themselves somewhere here and there while they are switching jobs, while they are, trying to make the ends meet, while they have left their cities. Everyone is looking for that.
Yeah.
Interestingly, the way space has happened, they don't feel confidence that if I put my hard work into this particular space today, it will for sure provide me a space where I am making good money to live in a big city like Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore, something like this. And second, that I will probably have very meaningful, interesting, exciting work. Like the understanding is I'll probably spend my entire day at the site just documenting, what has been the progress at the end of the day for the entire project. And that's not exciting to an extent. But the interesting part is in the last 5 years, especially after COVID, when remote collaboration became a need, a necessity, and the way of working demanded for the projects have to go on, how do we make it happen? This way of collaborating, sitting remotely with a lot of automations, a lot of tech penetration with respect to how, scoping is happening, how surveying is happening, how projects are being, organized, how projects are being, managed while the construction is happening. This all has started to happen in a very different manner. And those set of people who are early adopters in the space are seeing the advantage of it.
Absolutely correct. I agree. Do you think that there is a surging boom ahead for civil engineers who are technically and educationally well-trained and well-equipped to handle projects?
Yes, yeah. See, I've spent enough time last 5-6 years to understand BIM, its industry. If you look at quick hard data, there are in India alone close to 2.5 to 3 lakh job openings in BIM field alone, which is BIM engineers, BIM architects, BIM modelers, BIM coordinators. And the demand for this has, sort of scaled at almost 25 to 30% year on year in the last 5 years. And the trend goes on. And the simple reason for that is India is becoming the back-end outsourcing hub for the West in BIM, in a nutshell. It's said that by 2030, almost 35 to 40% of BIM work globally would be happening in India.
Awesome. Good opportunities.
Yes, for sure.
Are we ready to serve that opportunity?
The demand is growing. I think if I say, we're just at the start of it. I think if I have to really narrow down how many people do really know BIM to an extent in India as of today, probably might be 50,000-60,000 people. And I think if you get on this bandwagon early on, you will be able to create a differentiated value for yourself with respect to the type of work you will be doing. It will be interesting, it will be engaging, etc. And it also puts you on a path where, if I have to really draw parallels, how there are, in real tech world, the CTOs, VP of engineering, etc. all these construction companies, infrastructure companies, architecture studios, they will have this vertical which will have a director of technology. And they will be coming from this particular niche of understanding BIM, understanding certain other technologies which come across, various new things coming in the industry.
Yeah. So construction companies today, either they are contractors or PMCs or any sort of services that are rendered. One of the biggest fields that's coming up is concrete technology. Because we are looking at a major boost in precast because of the government policies now. When you talk about BIM, I don't think any of the bigger size industries can function without it.
Yeah.
In fact, I met this gentleman named Sanu Matthew. I run an MEP company. He's like, yaar, agar MEP mein BIM na ho, then what the hell are we doing? I think we are still designing like nomads.
Yeah.
So he actually is a BIM forward company. That's how he calls it. He says there is nothing that cannot be done on BIM. And we profess to the client, we keep selling the idea to the client. And some who actually ask us questions, yeah, I don't think India is ready for it. Because not everybody or all the stakeholders of that project or all the people actually participating are, BIM educated, let's say.
Yeah.
But you know what? He actually makes an effort so that the architects, of course, the architectural firms know it. MEP knows it. Even structural engineers, all drawings can be incorporated. Everything is fitting in place. But again, site pe condition hi for that person to understand what's going on.
Yeah.
But uske benefits jab aap experience kar lete ho, once you go on, then I think it's hard to move away from it.
Yeah.
Once you've gotten in.
Yeah. The efficiency part, especially.
Absolutely. Problem solving becomes easy.
Yeah.
You can revisit it.
Coordination, collaboration, everything.
So you can actually reduce the tag around that work job, the turnaround time of that work job drastically.
Yeah, I'll tell you, like probably 15 years back, if a project took 7 years with BIM implementation, probably can be reduced to 3 years today, 2.5 years today. That's the possibility when end-to-end adoption of BIM really happens. And also I'll tell you, it's bound to happen that anything and everything that is built in the real world, few years from now would be actually just on, BIM at the end of the day. If you really go to, Tesla's hiring space, some of the key open positions are around BIM.
Interesting.
So, because all the car automation, their manufacturing, their systems, they are all being, collaborating and organizing things of various different, parts of it coming together on software itself.
Tell me one thing. So technology is ever evolving, right? That's one of the challenges with technology. Keep yourself updated, right? What's happening now is that a student in the first year or the second year, in engineering, it takes 4 years, architects 5 years, right? If you make it.
Yeah, it's really funny how it takes 4 and 5 years. Today also, in today's date, which was like probably 100 years back system, it still is like you have to go through 5 years of education. I did go through it. You would have gone through it. It just doesn't make sense anymore today.
Okay, fair. But after all these years, while they've done a course updating themselves in terms of BIM or Revit or whatever, these kind of softwares, whatever's available in the market today, you don't know if the tech's going to evolve after 5 years. There is the whole cry or foul cry around AI currently. And then you're looking at AR because VR is not important enough anymore. Everybody is pushing for tech, but we don't know what the right tech is 5 years later or 4 years later. What's your take on these kids who say, okay, maybe BIM will change, so maybe I will wait and decide, or maybe I should do it while I'm in a job? What's your advice to college students? Should they enroll for such programs? Should they equip themselves for the right softwares? Should they do these courses? Or maybe you think this is only for professionals who are actually in the job space right now?
So it's a very, I think, sort of to the point question for what everyone questions, that if everything is changing so fast, what should be the approach really? I would like to answer this specifically with a data point that's very interesting.
Okay.
So with respect to human skill set, there is something we measure which is called half-life of a skill. Okay, which basically means that if I know a skill today, and for that skill, I am paid 100 rupees, for example, for a work. In how much time for that same skill would I be paid 50 rupees? So basically, that skill lost its value to half In how much time did that happen? Now, in 1930s, exactly like almost like 100 years back, the half-life of a skill was almost 40 years. Okay. So if I learned a skill in my 20s when I'm doing a college or probably did my, 12th class, I probably can make an earning out of a skill by the time I retire at 60. So it's pretty like, sort of compared to today, it's easy, but I'm sure it wouldn't have been easy for that time as well.
Fair.
In today's date,
Yeah.
the average half-life of a skill is 3.5 years.
That's it.
Yeah, because the technology evolution is super fast. Like this averages across probably in tech world, it will be 2.5 years. In probably AEC industry, like architecture, engineering, construction, this will be ballparked around 4.5, 5 years. But what I mean to say is that if today it's BIM, tomorrow it will be something else. So I'm not saying that BIM is the real deal. BIM is important in today's context, but just know that the real hack is how do you position yourself to learn these new incoming technologies very, very fast?
So it's going to be a constant upskilling kind of a job.
Exactly.
Towards a career.
And that shift is going to happen in the entire education system as well. Like in next 40, 50 years, as India evolves, as India from, 145 crore of us become 170 crore, 180 crore.
Yeah, 200 soon.
Probably it will plateau at around, I think, 185 CR. But then post that, it will ease out to back to 150 CR by the 21st century. But what I mean to say is that it's super important to recognize that how do you position yourself that you're learning things on the go and continuously put yourself in a rhythm that you're making time to know what are the most recent advancements in the technology space and how it's getting adopted. The more you know that, the more you understand about that, the more you are able to make sense out of it and stitch the dots really, really well. I think you are of immense value in the industry and it will show in everything, then you get out of the industry as well.
Interesting. What do you have to say to a mindset which says, you know what, मुझे ज़रूरत नहीं है technical knowledge की, या मुझे अपने आप को technically update करने की ज़रूरत नहीं है because AI is here. So I can use all these tools and just give them a voice command or just type it in and it'll do my job. I'm sure you guys get this question regularly, especially from like young guys who are asking you this. Is this even relevant anymore, or is AI actually there? Do you think?
4 years back when we started NOVATR, one of the first things we had to do was really create a lot of awareness about what BIM is and how it makes difference to your workflows, how you save time, how you save effort, and how with that same save time, you can actually put more of your energies into doing things that really add value to you further. And it took us a while to do that. I think today we have made certain progress that a decent section of the industry know about what BIM is and how it can make a difference.
Yeah.
But initially it was very, very hard. I think for the ones who think that, I probably don't need to upskill or understand, I think it's a conscious choice you make. I think somewhere you will recognize that set of things will somewhere get left out for sure. Like how do you create a competitive advantage in a technical evolving world at the end of the day? And I think there is nothing wrong in it. It's just a choice you make for yourself. Where do you want to stand in the entire spectrum of things?
Correct. Makes sense. But these courses are available online, right? YouTube is teaching you. Udemy is teaching you, and for cheap.
Yeah.
There's something called Coursera. I even saw something called Domestica. I don't know, some Spanish company. I don't know. I saw all these things on Instagram. I'm not even sure if they work, but I'm sure that they are, when they're selling. By the way, I saw something very interesting. I saw a whole architecture course on Udemy for $420. And I shared it in one of the architects groups. I'm like, sir, what's happening to the study of architecture? He's like, yeah, do it. Why don't you become an architect? What's your take on that?
Yeah. So, we get this question a lot. Like, your entire, what you do is based on education of a certain kind in a particular niche. With YouTube, why is this even needed? And I'll tell you where we come from and the thought process behind how we see education at the end of the day, or our perspective of education has come together. So I graduated 6 years back, and when I had graduated, I I sort of, like everyone does, I look up to your seniors. You see, these people who are 3 or 4 year ahead of you from the same college. What are they doing today? And I saw a major chunk of my seniors, my batchmates, are to an extent clueless. Why? Because it's not making sense with respect to this particular path in my career will sort of help me have a very stable, financial space.
Yeah.
And this sort of connects the dots, the type of work I want to do. And it's quite chaotic. And we said, like, did our college education not help us, have that clarity? We spent 5 years studying architecture.
Of course.
And almost like I think 4,000, 5,000 hours of learning across these 5 years. And it's a massive amount of time. We recognized two large parts to it. One was possibly the curriculum that was taught to us was probably revised some 30 years back. And since then, there were minor tweaks done to the curriculum, but fundamentally, it's still stuck in that age. And second, when we bifurcated this entire environment of learning, almost 70 to 80% of that learning was imparted by faculty who hasn't built a building in their life.
Oh, yeah.
And that sort of creates a disconnect, right? And this is one thought of where it is. And I simply went to these people who are really good, in terms of what they do, their practice. They have built some of the big infrastructure in the country today, and asked them, why don't you actively come and teach? And they simply said, it doesn't make sense for two reasons. There are active hours needed during the weekdays to spend in colleges to teach. And second, what remuneration you make out of it doesn't make sense for the effort and time you put in.
Yeah.
So why should I do it? And in my perspective, you can learn a lot of theory. Like, in today's date, you can do a chat GPT and you can have a very structured answer to whatever is not making sense to you. But I think nothing competes to the learning you get out of the people who have been there, done that, who have seen it, who know the nuances of where something gets stuck. And that's the fundamental part of learning. So if I give a structure to this answer somewhere is, there are three parts to learning. 10% of learning someone gets is through theory. Where it's a one-way learning. Oh, okay, these are the types of foundations. This is how, this foundation happens. These are, the comparison to each other, something. And that's pure theory, someone telling you. 70% of your learning happens through practice. Now, I understand this entire concept. Now, I get some sort of beginner to advanced level questions in that concept. And as I start doing more questions, I sort of start getting feedback on that from someone. So that's where a mentor gets very important, because they give you pinpointed feedback on this part of what you're thinking is right, but you need to see this in a very different manner. And this is actually the reality. So how that feedback loop comes together on practicing and assessments, that becomes a very important part where a learner builds capability in their mind and builds confidence in their mind that, I know I can do this. And I can, when I have nothing in front of it, I have to do it on my own. There is nobody to support me. I'll be able to do this. That's 70% of the learning. And 20% of the learning happens through friends. When you are sitting and talking about topics just like that, but यार ये तो ऐसे होना चाहिए था, और इस particular चीज के अंदर हम ऐसे क्यों नहीं देखते? Those random ideas when you are sitting in classroom, cafeteria, traveling together, etc. So that interaction basically helps you get a different perspective. And not just that, we all produce work. We take our work to the class. You see other friends' work. And that's where you also get ideas. Oh, this question could have been attempted in a different manner. I did do it. And that's where actually learning further solidifies. Now, Udemy, YouTube actually takes care of just the 10% of it.
Yeah. The theory.
Yeah. And the real learning is across this entire spectrum. And our goal at NOVATR became how we bring the top practicing professionals of the world. Like, someone who has built, this iconic structure was at the top knowing the problems during execution that happened. How does that person come on board and inspire people, share their experience, and bring that learning to, all the people? And we have been able to bring together almost 270 such mentors on our platform who sort of bring that their knowledge, their experiences, their background, and they are from everywhere in the world. someone sitting in London, someone sitting in New York, someone sitting in Australia somewhere, and they all come together and give you perspective how things happen in their context. And very interesting part about construction. I'm sorry, taking a longer answer.
No, please. It's a good answer. I like it.
In construction, probably a few years back, construction used to happen in a very contextual manner. Local materials, local techniques, local way of doing things.
Yeah.
In the last 25 years, the entire construction industry has become more globalized. Standards are being adopted across UK, USA, India, China, and there are certain common way of doing things that have happened through whatever, technological learnings that have happened over the years at different worlds. And probably this is the best way of doing things. And that's where in our curriculum as well, we picked up REBA framework from the UK, and that became the, entire background around where learning should happen at the end of the day. And that is to an extent adopted everywhere in the world. So that became the, background of learning. So probably gives an answer that how a focused learning space is very important. You can have fun at YouTube. Probably watching some bit of Dhruv Rathi is good. But yeah, that's all.
You mentioned that you have about independent, unique 1.2 million users who are accessing your data banks, which is available for free. What is that data bank about? What kind of help are you giving out to students and these young professionals who are accessing that information?
Yeah. So if you go to NOVATR's website, there is entire sections of, career-related content with respect to if you're probably a civil engineer, with what background, if you're an architect, with what background, with the years of experience, what sort of career paths in technology world are possible for you, how you should approach them. So very career focused, some sort of content that you can go through. Then there are technology oriented content as well around BIM, around, construction management, around computational design, around sustainability, many other topics around it. And you can probably have a gist of where the world is really headed to an extent.
Okay, interesting. I want to know about why you are into architecture. And then when you are into architecture, why did you start NOVATR? Because it's fun to understand why somebody did not pursue their education into a career, and what are the challenges you saw then, which you thought this is a better answer to what I want to do with my time.
So I come from a space where I have seen sites, construction, architecture as a kid very early on. My dad had an architecture practice, and probably when I was 5, it happened to be a context that Saturdays when I'm at home, there is no school. There's nobody to take care of me at home. So my dad would just take me to his office, his architecture studio. And on the way, in the morning, he would have his site visits. So I started going to site visits probably when I was 6 years old. And it would be every Saturday's routine to an extent where I go to see sites and then probably go to this office and see people sketching, see people drafting by hand. And this is probably 2000, 2001, 2002 types.
Yeah.
And I think we had 2 systems which had AutoCAD, and I saw all that, and I really didn't know what specifically an architect, civil engineer, a structural engineer, all these people who get involved, a contractor, some context, but still not. But what I would love is that there are this set of people. आज लेंटर डालना है साइट के ऊपर. They're all coming together. There is someone who's saying, हाँ हम ऐसे chain बनाएंगे, organize करेंगे. Just observing that got me really excited. These guys are building something. And my dad would be commanding the space as an architect that this has to be done, where is this, etc. And I got really excited about it in general as a creation activity. Probably by the time I became 14 or 15, I decided I want to be an architect someday, because I just saw that very interesting field at the intersection of somewhere engineering and somewhere creativity. I didn't know where it would lead to, but I had seen some things of it in the office of my father, and I said, let's do it. It would be fun.
Okay.
And following my curiosity, I sort of happened to come to Delhi during my school itself. My parents put me in a boarding school here, and then eventually I landed at SPA. But one thought sort of remained common in all these years, something that always came internally as an intent. I want to make a difference. I want to create value, and I want to ensure that that value I create adds positively to the world in a certain manner. I don't know where it will, like what context, where, etc. But I'll figure that out what it is.
Okay.
And while all this was happening, I think got introduced through some of my IITM friends about this entire tech world and understanding of that how, like this in early 2010s, 2014, 15, 16, this set of space, if you solve a problem really, really well, this can reach to a lot of people in no time. And I said, this is quite exciting. And this will be like worth, probably getting into. And possibly around 2018, 19, when I had graduated, my co-founders had graduated. We were like not co-founders back then, we were friends, graduated from college. We were just thinking, what do we get towards? What do we work towards? And this gap in education always like sort of, makes some connect. Also to tell you, like my mother is a professor at a college in my hometown. So I've seen that education side. I've seen, how running a studio is. I think I was at the space that what is the choice do I make? Do I like continue my dad's practice? He spent like years building it. Do I sort of, do something else entirely? Like, probably a tech world excites me, like go into it, figure out what it is. But I think what choice made sense was that education has large impact on people's lives. And if we are able to build people who build this entire world around us, civil engineers, architects, structural engineers, MEP engineers, interior designers, I think that will be a really good thing when probably 30 years down the line, we'll look back and say, oh, we made a difference and a very good difference. So I think that sort of essence internally got us into this. I think with whatever I knew in the industry, like whatever I had learned with my curiosity, initially me, Vipanchi, my co-founder, we sort of taught almost 1,000 students on our own in 2019 and early 2020. With COVID happening, we sort of started understanding that what online education can do in today's date, right? How it gives access to the best people in the world suddenly. How, this could be a game changer for anyone to learn from anywhere in the world at any time to an extent. And how, possibly we can probably become a companion to people trying to build their career. So that vision came together for us and we said, let's work towards it.
Interesting. It's a good story, man. And you started out young, right? So there's that energy in place with that purpose. I love it. I've been lucky to meet such young stars these days. Of late, I've met some of them, and now today you spoke to Vipanchi in one of our earlier episodes as well. Tell me, you've worked with companies hiring engineers today, right?
Yeah.
What do you think is the biggest shift you've seen in the way or how they hire? Because I want to talk careers now. I want to talk about engineers and I really want to get deeper into it.
So it depends at what stage in your career you are at. If you're a fresher, probably 1-2 years of experience in the industry. I think the most important part is technical understanding of things. Like obviously there are always fundamentals. There are these foundational concepts of, probably in a civil engineer's case or structural engineer cases, understanding really deeply load calculations and how they happen. But apart from that, that understanding of, software, understanding of how, these particular tool tests, look like how you crack them, the understanding of, how you are able to crack these technical rounds of interviews. I think that becomes the, make or break to an extent. And also to give you an idea, in today's data on our platform, we have close to 600 companies who hire from us directly. And every month we sort of receive, 1,200 to 1,300 unique job descriptions. So we run our systems through those job descriptions, our scripts and algorithms, and we sort of get an understanding of what competencies are growing in the industry in demand and what competencies are probably going down to an extent. And accordingly, in every few months we update our curriculum as per those competencies. So in ongoing basis, we don't want to be a place where, we take a look at our curriculum in like once in 10 years, 20 years. So it's an ongoing thing that the latest trends of the industry become a part of the thing where we are. And I think the make or break is technical concepts, technical understanding of things, being able to crack tool tests. And that's about it.
What do you think is the most promising today in terms of demand, in terms of a job for a civil engineer?
For a civil engineer, I think like in terms of sheer volume, I think BIM engineer, BIM modeler, if you're able to, show a sort of understanding more deeply about the concepts of BIM and have good people skill as well from there on, I think it suddenly evolves into BIM coordinator as well, but more prominently, specifically BIM engineer and BIM modeler.
And what kind of jobs do you think are completely right now obsolete, or they're just going out within the civil engineering world?
I think not going out entirely.
Less demand for.
Yeah, it's also not less demand. I think that skill has lost its value, which probably to an extent is, draftsmanship. A site engineer role also to an extent. See, the demand is there. A lot of people still need site engineer, but that the value of the skill is not that important anymore. So people really need to understand from there on the, important aspects of construction management, project management, certain intersection of how really the coordination happens with BIM models being built to an extent. So all those parts have to really come together.
Harkunwar, traditional civil engineering degree.
Yeah.
You think it's enough anymore? Yes or no?
A very straight answer, I would say no. But I would also say, at the end of the day, it's the skill and competency what matters. I think nobody looks at your degree stamp anymore while hiring. They look at what capability do you bring to the table, what energy do you bring to the table, and what intent of continuous learning you bring to the table.
Interesting. Do you think if a fresher walked into an interview today, what do you think will make or break their chances of landing a job currently in the cutthroat competitive environment?
Very, very simply put, I think openness and curiosity to learn more. Like that's being judged at most like how quickly are you ready to learn and how open you are to learning various things that are needed to excel at the job.
Interesting. Why is BIM suddenly a minimum requirement instead of something which is a good to have kind of a requirement? You know what I mean? It's good to know that you have a BIM skill, but it's sort of now becoming like, it's a minimum requirement. You must know it. Why do you think that's happening?
It's a similar shift, like how the world moved in, from west to, towards the east, and probably from 80s to early 2000s, how it moved from draftsmanship to AutoCAD. It's a similar trend happening. Companies want to be more efficient. They want to be more effective with the work. They want to be more precise with their work. And BIM really helps you achieve that. You save costs, you sort of increase your profit margins. It all comes together. And that shift is like especially like top firms globally, top firms in India, they are all looking for that how someone is demonstrating that skill set.
Yeah. I mean, if you're a civil engineer and then you're a BIM engineer, that's going to be a minimum requirement now.
Yeah.
Can BIM really help an engineer double their salary? Do you have any examples?
Yeah. See, I would say that doubling a salary it's not a very straight answer to an extent. It depends, again, like what sort of a ownership and credibility someone builds with their work that they do. We have seen people who have enrolled in our programs and got their salary increased by 300-400% as well. Probably someone who was making 3 lakhs a year, probably like started making 10 lakhs, 11 lakhs as well. Very rare cases, though those are like specific cases, probably like the top 1%, 2% of all our cohorts. But I really think that the average set is someone making a 50-60% hike in the program, what we have seen as patterns. And the actual compounding happens in the 3rd and 4th year of knowing BIM.
Yeah.
Because now you have an hands-on experience on BIM as well further.
Yeah, that's when you actually become an expert, right?
Yeah.
Interesting. What are the hottest BIM roles today that recruiters are fighting over?
I think BIM automation. I think anybody who sort of is able to, in this entire AI world, probably make automations happen, make a work that used to take manual effort of 5 days suddenly happening automatically in probably a couple of hours to an extent. I think those are the spaces in which, the demand is super high.
Faster delivery with the right delivery.
Yeah, and consistency, and also like the errors are reduced, significantly.
Interesting. How does BIM expertise impact career growth for mid-level engineers too? And I don't just mean like freshers, because somebody who's been in that industry for 5 years suddenly feels like they're in a rut now. They don't see that career growing, right? How can BIM expertise help them?
I think understanding of technology has become a necessity from here on. And probably, whatever age you are at right now, whatever years of experience you are at, if you're even 35, 38, 40 or 28, 29, whatever, like wherever in the segment you like, I think understanding of technology is really important to do the work and also get the work done. And hence, it's super critical that everyone really knows that how the entire mechanism works around the, like technology of BIM to an extent.
No, I want to add something to this, and it just occurred to me. Some of the best civil engineers that I met, they have never ceased to learn, there is this gentleman, even at 65, by the way, he's retired.
Yeah.
He's consulting 3 different companies, just as a consultant, getting paid handsomely.
Yeah.
Because that gentleman, even today, is doing certifications from IIT Madras, from where not. And he is constantly upgrading himself. I'm like, sir, what is the extent of this learning? He's like, I'm always a student because my field is such. It will always teach you new things. How can I stay at one thing? And this just comes to my mind, like anybody who's grown within the civil engineers industry or professional frame of work, they have always been constant learners. And this is something I realize now talking to you, because I mean, every day I meet these guys, but I don't realize that how much hard work they're putting in. You won't believe, like, people are getting their PhDs at like 45 or 50 years of age because they never thought that they could do it then. Now they have the means and now they're doing it.
We have these set of learners who are in their 50s as well, who learn on our platform. A very few, probably 1.5% learners probably would have seen, 100 odd such people who are in their 50s. But it's super inspiring to see that set of people, understanding the importance of learning. And I think those set of people are also really motivated to do something with their life.
And that's probably the crux of it. And you said it, like, if you how much do you want to do?
Yeah.
How much can you train yourself? Can you actually go? It was right there when you answered the question about what people are looking, in people to hire. Many young engineers are broke and skeptical and frankly confused. How do they know that investing in BIM is not a scam today? How can I tell them this?
To each their own. I think everyone, when they make a decision for themselves with respect to anything, right? Like you should do your own deep research about things. You should go deep into the things. And I don't think it's just an investment of money, to be very honest. I think more important than that is time. You're investing 6 months, 4 months, whatever time you're investing to learn something, you're investing your very precious time.
Yeah.
And I think you should do your proper due diligence to understand what all is happening in the industry. How is it shifting gears? Where, my sort of strengths lie? What do I really love? What am I passionate about? Narrow that down to an extent and just go hammer and tongs on it. Like, go very deep into it, learn that. And with respect to even making a decision to an extent that, if I have to learn BIM, where do I learn BIM at the end of the day? I think it's just very critical to know that what all is happening, who's doing what, understand from the people and who have probably experienced that as well, and make your decision.
It seems like I'm beating down the same, bush again and again and again and again. How long do you think how long does it actually take to see a return on the investment that somebody makes on a BIM course? And the reason I'm asking this is, again, I'm coming from a background of understanding these kids. Bunch of them don't come from great, business families, or they have a lot of means at their end. So the ROI is a very big, thing for them. What do you really think that they can actually?
Got it. I think firstly, what matters is how you see ROI, right? If a ROI is specifically with respect to monetary aspects, that if I'm spending this much, where do I eventually make that money? I think within a year or 2 year of learning, you would automatically see, because you would have leapfrogged your career trajectory to an extent. You would have made significant progress where you would be in 3-4 years, you would make that sort of a push for yourself within a year to an extent. The other part, how I see is ROI is the nature of work that you do, right? Like that gives you peace, that gives you excitement. So I think if you're someone who sort of is excited about technology, if you're someone who loves to, collaborate across teams with the work that's supposed to happen, and in general passionate about, this particular aspect, I think then there is no math to that ROI.
And that's actually where you're learning, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's actually where you're creating also. If you don't collaborate, or if you don't understand the other system which are running around what you are running, it doesn't really work. One of the biggest deterrents, and I dare say this, within the professional field of work, any kinds, is that your senior does not approve of it. There is that insecurity in place which says, पागल है, क्यों कर रहा है, क्यों दुनिया भर के पैसे खर्च कर रहा है, कुछ नहीं होता इन चीजों से, ऐसे थोड़ी प्रमोशन मिलेगा. It is coming from a place of insecurity because that gentleman does not want to grow. He doesn't have a vision for himself, and he's teaching you or feeding you the same thing. And countless number of times I've seen this. I think a good boss is somebody who's an enabler.
Yeah.
If you don't have bosses like that within your companies or within your firms, I think you're in the wrong space. It's a means to an end. Get out. Throw time back, please.
It's a simple thing, right? No learning goes to waste.
And if it's wasted, then what the hell? Then that environment is not placing in the right place. There was this whole story about somebody played the violin at the opera house, sold out the opera house, right? But he, as a social experiment, he played in a subway in Sydney, and he collected $10 that evening. It's where you place yourself. If you place yourself in that subway, you're going to get $10. But if you placed yourself in opera house, you're selling out for millions. So it's where you are also that matters a lot. So many courses out there. How can a student tell which one is actually worth their money? How do they pick and choose?
I think it depends what someone is looking for at the end of the day, what sort of learning outcomes someone is really interested in, and what depth of education someone, wants for themselves. I think just quickly evaluate 3 parts. A, which is actually the smaller part, which is what's the part of the curriculum, what is being covered, what all I will be, have an understanding of at the end of the day. Second, I think, which is also more direct, which is to do with, the outcomes of learning. Like, what will I achieve at the end of the day through this? I think the more important part is, which are the intangible parts which people fail to recognize, is wherever you are going to learn, what is the nature of people coming in that space, right? Like, you might be studying anything at an IIT, but just that access to people at IIT, the sort of people that are coming to that space will change your career trajectory, indefinitely.
Yeah, as the people around you.
Yeah. So having an understanding of, in that particular program, what sort of people would be coming, how I'll be interacting with them, and, probably the nature of mentors, the nature of, the other peers that will be studying with me. I think that has the most impact. And I think it's the most neglected thing when people are making decision about their learning journey.
Absolutely.
And hence I say, it's actually very important to understand your time is your most precious thing. Put that at the right place consciously. Look for places where, people are eager to grow, eager to learn, and get along with them. I think you will do pretty good for yourself.
And it's the right rooms where you place yourself in, right? With the right kind of people. That's where you learn and inspire yourself from others. Yeah. This is fun. This is good. What red flags screen run away when evaluating a BIM program from anywhere across the spectrum?
Yeah, I would say a lot of programs do put across that they have it all what the top programs are showing, but it's probably at the surface, and a lot of times those programs would try to convince you that no, we really do. But just know that a lot of research, effort, and input goes into crafting out a very good learning experience and learning pedagogy. And it doesn't just, ask a lot of time. It also asks a lot of resource in terms of effort and money going into it to really put together the best of it together. So what I've seen, like, though, not boasting about it, but, we were the first ones which put together a holistic BIM learning program, possibly globally, by getting the best set of people 4 years back, 5 years back on our platform and curating it out. But I really think a lot of similar looking things have cropped up in the last few years. Just consciously choose what makes sense to you the most and make a decision.
What percentage of people picking your courses are coming from outside India?
Close to 20-25%.
Okay.
Yeah. Specifically, we see people enrolling in our programs from the US, also a lot from Middle East, and then parts of Southeast Asia, Indonesia, Australia, all that.
You think we are still BIM averse in our country? I think there is an unaware.
I think for sure, but I think that shift is picking pace really, really well in the last 3-4 years.
Especially for somebody opting to be in the industry. Right?
Yeah.
Outsiders, I still probably would not know what it is.
Yeah. Though I'll probably point out one thing here. I happened to spend some time few weeks back at one of the top technology savvy university in the world, Stanford University, and I was talking to the director of programs over there, and we all recognize that how the shift in technology around these relevant technologies and fields has to be brought in globally. It's not just like India's problem, it's at world level, a switch that has to be brought together really, really well.
Do you think COVID hurt us?
COVID?
Do you think COVID hurt us in terms of learning, especially the students?
No, I think probably in the short term, yes. But I think for the long term, it has opened gates for possibilities that how quality learning can happen from anywhere at any time.
Yeah. That it's how even work is happening, right? Workspaces and how they're behaving. People not stepping out of their houses anymore, being in a comfortable environment. Even the social fabric has changed. I've seen people dying to meet other people now. Making plans like 3 months in advance. Yeah, let's meet there.
I'll probably mention one thing. I spent last 5 years in the entire space of education and specifically in this niche of AEC. I always questioned that what got me excited to show up in college every day. Okay. And I couldn't narrow it down to actually a particular lecture, to be very honest. I think it was always friends, fun, probably, a crush I'm excited about. It's those things that ensured I show up to an extent to college because I'm excited about certain things.
It's your social space.
Yeah. And I think one of the thought process that has gone into our learning pedagogy is how do we bring in that human connect really, really well on our platform? It is not evident in front of everyone straight up on our platform that you get to experience or see, but that's where the real fun happens. And that's where we get feedback on the students, from the students at NOVATR that, this was different and this was super fun, what I just experienced.
Business owners today, especially जो लाला company वाले business owners है ना, who have come from like 30 years or 50 years or 60 years of past of doing things in a certain way. They are now enrolling themselves into business courses.
Yeah.
They're like some champion business trainers, but it's not the training. It's the people in that room. It's the circles they make and they sit down on every Saturday with their pints and whatever, or their coffees or whatever, and they're hashing out their business problems in front of these friends and solving it because someone in the room has the answer.
Yeah.
It is one of my favorite things to do. Like once a month, all business owners sitting, 3, 4, 5, 6 friends, and say, yeah, how do you do this? How do you manage an automated system with your factory without running a software? Google Sheets. Somebody gave me that answer, and you won't believe, like for the past 2 months, my life has been so easy. There are a bunch of these solutions that I found with the right way. Absolutely spot on. Do you think is BIM hard to learn for beginners or traditional civil engineers? Is there like a criteria that you have, which is an eligibility criteria to fit the role?
Yeah. I think it's easy, firstly. And I also think everything at the end of the day is easy to learn if you put in focused hours.
Now, somebody in the first year can learn it?
I think the way currently our program is structured, they'll have to work a bit extra to learn the fundamentals, fast track their learning to an extent. I think it's relatively more defined for someone who's third year and above, and then probably a graduate and professional. But I think probably who's in first, second year, they would have to like really put in some further extra hours with their mentor to figure out certain, fundamentals in a certain way better. But I would say it's easy. I would also specify one thing. I think magic happens after 200 hours of learning something. So you really need to do focused 200 hours of learning across the 6 months of the program. And, by the end of it, you can suddenly see, I really know stuff really, really well. So I think that is where somewhere people skip. And I'll also draw a line to this. We all enroll in gym to have that hot summer body.
Yeah.
Gym, you enroll in the best of the gyms with the best of the equipment and the best of the trainer. But you don't really show up.
Pay for the whole year.
Yeah.
Get 3 months extra because that's why you're paying for the whole year.
Yeah. If you don't show up, right, like you can't make the most out of it.
Yeah.
So I think it's similar to education. You can enroll in the best space, but you have to work hard at your end for those hours.
That's a good analogy, actually. Makes sense. One last question, and then we have some fun. Because I really want some quick answers from you running as you're the CEO of NOVATR. Some fun answers will be, I think it'll be like quite fun to actually see, right? What advice would you give to someone listening or watching who feels stuck in a low-paying job today within the realm of AEC?
I think start with figuring out what technologies are really growing. Figure out how you would like to learn those technologies and work towards it. I think if you have, the space to spend for a program, go and spend for the program. If you believe you're disciplined enough and focused enough, YouTube is a great space to access free content, and there is a plethora of content on the internet to learn anything literally. Like, I don't come from a business family to an extent. I haven't seen a lot of whatever we have done at NOVATR. There's a lot of internet-based learning to understand how things really happen. So start learning about these technologies. And as you feel right, I would say enrolling in a structured program really helps you get more focus and really helps you have that right hand holding, and just adding one part of it. We really believe in this entire concept from India of Gurukul learning, where, there used to be a guru and 15 to 20 students under a guru. And that exactly is what we replicate in our learning pedagogy as well. We have celebrity mentors who probably are there to inspire, connect, share stories. But there is this mentor who's there to take care of these 15, 18 bunch of students and get personally involved with each one of them to help them learn that particular thing.
Okay, I thought it'll be the last question, but no, something's come up now in my head. As an outsider, when I see startups in the edutech business, I see Byju's in the news for the wrong reasons. I see Upgrad in the news for the wrong reasons. I see a bunch of these platforms there. Kind of depletes my trust within this whole setup. Or it tells me as an outsider who's never actually, there is no need for me to jump into such tech learn programs because I'm not a practicing architect or civil engineer, right? how do I trust? How do I actually take that leap of faith and move towards understanding, okay, this is good for me in an environment where, we see all these things happening every day?
Yeah. I think for the edtech space, what happened probably 2 years back is a scar somewhere. And being in that same space, it does hurt at times because, it does sort of has taken away some part of trust from the people that what are these online education businesses or platforms or startups really doing. But what I really see is that none of these founders, in my opinion, had a bad intent. Everyone started with a genuine intent. Everyone worked towards things with a genuine intent. But I think that wave of just after COVID in 21, 22, the hype around education technology companies and, the money that, sort of got into these companies really brought in certain pressure to have rapid growth very, very fast. And I think it takes time to create structures internally in a company that ensures consistency, quality, and building for the consumer and customer really, really well. And somewhere that sort of bust open sometime, in 22, 23 altogether. I really believe, everyone who gets started to build a business with a mission, they really want to make a difference in the right manner. And they are doing day and night a lot of work to put things together for the user. I just think, it's a matter of time, probably a few months, a couple of more years from here. I think edtech space would be thriving as, before and maybe better from here on.
Yeah, I see it has a good space, to be honest. It's easy access at the comfort of your own time, in a way, more or less. All right, let's have some fun. All right. So it's a very basic this or that, and then maybe like a rapid fire kind of a thing, right? Few tutorials, free tutorials, or paid structured learning.
As I said before, whatever makes sense to you in the moment, but obviously structured learning helps you get grip on things faster, better.
And for the long term.
Yeah.
Degree or skill?
Skill.
Easy answer, right?
Yeah, obviously.
AutoCAD or Revit?
I think learn the technology. Software will keep changing and evolving.
Fair. Quantity surveyor or BIM modeler?
BIM modeler.
Again, an easy one. 30K a month, safe job, or risky BIM leap for 1 lakh a month?
I think to each their own, because I think I don't want to influence straight up. But I think you only grow when you take risk.
Yeah, if you don't go for it.
Yeah.
Fastest BIM learner that you've ever seen? Take that name. Who was the guy or the girl? Let's give them credit.
I think Aditi Shukla from one of our first cohorts. She joined in as an architect initially and now is a BIM lead at Jaycox and had quite an impact in 2.5 years itself.
Awesome. Dekho, example. Worst BIM myth that you've ever heard?
I don't know about the myth, but misunderstanding that BIM is a software. But yeah.
It's common. It's there even today.
Yeah.
A lot of people think that. Interesting. One piece of advice to every civil engineer listening right now.
I think to sort of have a fulfilling, connected career and life both, take a conscious choice towards the type of career you want to build. Don't get carried away with probably what your peer is saying or a senior is saying with respect to how you should take choices. And if you ever intend to take advice from someone who has accomplished way more than you.
Interesting. This is such a big problem within the industry, man. Thinkers talk to thinkers. Talk to doers, man. सबसे simple है. I keep meeting so many of these students. इतने messages आते हैं, boss. I swear, and I feel very bad for these kids here. the professors that are teaching them, and I have no qualms in saying this. I don't even care if somebody feels bad about this. They have zero experience here. They are teaching. By the way, उसी कॉलेज से निकले हैं, उसी कॉलेज में वापस पढ़ाना शुरू कर दिया है.
Yeah.
I hate this. आप कुछ तो experience ले.
There's a problem with the system as well, right? The system allowed this. That's why it's happening.
And I am a firm believer in the guru. मुझे लगता है गुरु बड़ा शिष्य से हमेशा और रहेगा भी.
Yeah.
But आप गुरु के लिए अपने आप को equip तो करो. Now the challenge is with the colleges also. They don't have the right people to put in place to educate the others.
Yeah.
It is
Which is
it's a half-eaten wheel. You've taken a big chunk out of that wheel. Now that wheel is not functioning properly. And with the ever-moving demand from the industry. So construction or infra put together is going to be the biggest industry feeder to the GDP of the country. Soon. Currently, it's agriculture. हम agriculture को surpass करने वाले हैं. आने वाले शायद 10.
यही तो है, हम डेवलपिंग नेशन है और हर एक को क्या चाहिए होता है? फूड, क्लोथिंग, शेल्टर. अगर हमारा फूड टू एन एक्सटेंट स्ट्रक्चर्ड है, सॉर्टेड है, शेल्टर फॉर ऑल is the next big problem in the country, and hence infrastructure.
Yeah. And not just shelter, like other systems.
Like public infrastructure.
सब खाली है अभी space. And there is so much to be built and to be built right. There's a policy which is at discussion level for the last 30 years.
Okay.
That they want to give a license to a contractor now. अब वो लाइसेंस किसको मिलेगा? जो सिविल इंजीनियर होगा. अभी 30 साल से टेबल है. It has never been approved of.
आपको पता है US में even the labor needs to have a license to operate as a labor.
So we are lacking at a policy level also.
Yeah.
We are hurting our own engineering spaces so badly. और बहुत आप बिलीव नहीं करोगे, अभी फिर engineers day आ जाएगा सितंबर में. And we'll be celebrating at one of the constitution clubs or some other places, and there will be so many qualified engineers in the room, and they're all semi-happy or not so happy. The only ones who are fulfilled are the ones who are retired. ले अब तो क्या करना है आपका life? But they've done really well. They've written so many publications that some of these students have read. Bunch of these students ask me, sir, कैसे सीखूं? मैंने कहा भाई तुम associations join कर लो if you're practicing. Go meet people in exhibitions. Go to these brand companies who are hiring civil engineers. Understand what those guys do, and then you're like, okay, करने का या नहीं करने का.
Yeah.
First, get a bite of or taste of things that you really want to do and have that experience. It is just crazy. This is how you are going to put the end to this one. Failed. Got it? अब हम बातें कर रहे हैं. ठीक है? Awesome. I hope you enjoyed talking to me, sir.
Yeah, it was really good. Thank you.